Well, hello. This is the first time I've started streaming anything really. I hope you can hear me. Hello there, General Grievous. Excellent. I'm glad you can hear me. So yeah, this is the first time I've streamed anything. I was making this character model and I thought, well, it might be interesting to show you guys what it goes into actually creating a character for Heir to the Empire. Of course, I've almost finished him when I had that realization, but let's I might as well finish it off and let you see. Hi, Matt. Thank you everyone for your kind words. Welcome. So yeah, this is without looking at the top right, top left corner of the screen. I hope you can see who that is. Yep, this is Wedge. Answered before I even asked the question. As you can see, I've put a Rogue Squadron patch on his arm. I'm glad you're really excited for the next Heir to the Empire chapter. He's going to be in it, and I just pointed at the screen, realised you can't see me. So yeah, this is what I've got so far for Wedge. I had to find a Rebel helmet and then redecorate it. So what's missing is on his white jacket there should be a kind of ripple effect. I'm sure there's a much better technical explanation for it, but that's not really my area of expertise. And then this belt should be grey, and he kind of has this grey strap that comes from here and goes down here and then kind of wraps around his legs. I'm just going to paint that on basically because it keeps it a little bit simple, and for the most part you're going to be seeing him from here or very small like this. So let's zoom back in, and there we go. This is called Character Creator 3, which goes along with iClone, which is what I do all the animation with. And the idea is you can create your characters in this piece of software and then import them over to the animation software. I'll give you a quick run through before I start finishing off. So if you've ever played a video game where you can create your own characters, it's pretty much the same. You get all these slider bars to adjust different let's go to the head, eyes, to adjust all the different features, except it's a lot more in depth. So let's zoom in. So eye scale, if I'm going to move that up to... My computer's a bit slow because I haven't put my new graphics card in yet, due to some technical issues which I'm going to resolve soon. But yeah, so as you see, his eyes just got a lot bigger, and I'll put them back down to 0 because they're a bit more realistic to the character. I don't really know how to use Blender, so I can't compare it to Blender. There is a trial copy. If you go to realillusion.com, or just look up iClone, there's trial copies which I think they say either 2 weeks or a month, I can't remember offhand. You can try it out. Character Creator itself, there's a free version, and then you buy content like different so I'm getting distracted by the comments. So you buy content like different packages, different types of clothing, and hairstyles and that kind of thing. It is not the same voice actor who voices Thrawn in Rebels. The story about that is I went to Celebration in London in was it 2016, and I went to the Rebels panel, because I do enjoy the show, and I knew they were going to show the first 2 episodes of season 3. I had no idea that Thrawn was going to be in it, but I was working on a fan film called Imperials, which you can find on my YouTube channel if you haven't already. And Thrawn was going to be in that. So a few days before going to the convention, I received the recorded dialogue from Robert, who voices Thrawn in Imperials, and I listened to it, but I didn't really have any time to do anything because I was packing to go to the convention. But I listened to everything. So I went to the convention, I went to the panel, and the Thrawn was revealed, and the voice actor they'd chosen for Rebels sounded so similar to... he had an accent, which in Thrawn in Imperials didn't, but the similar way of portraying the character. I was really pleased that we both kind of had that. So then, I finished Imperials, and when it came to Heir to the Empire, I went back to Robert because I really liked his portrayal of Thrawn. And at this point, Robert had seen Rebels and said, okay, but he's going to do the similar kind of portrayal as he did in Imperials, but he wanted to do the accent as well. Yes, so this is iClone for everything. You can modify packs, so let me think. And you can import your own stuff, like you're not going to find a pack with a Rebel pilot helmet or the box here. And of course I edited the texture to have the Rogue Squadron logo on it. And I can't remember what colour this undersuit here, the orange. It wasn't orange to begin with. I can't remember what it was because I started this making this a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, you can modify all the clothes. You can change the textures. There's features where you can go in and change the fabric, which I don't really want to play with here because I like the way he looks. You can add decals into it, add aging effects, holes if you want it to look really battered, and so on. Yeah, Matt, he does do an excellent job. So when I did the first chapter as just a little experiment, I went to him and said, I'm just going to do a little testing video. Would you like to be Thrawn? And he came back to me and said yes. And I did all the other characters because it was just meant to be a test, and I wanted Thrawn to stand out. But it's more about the space battle actually. And then of course when all you guys kept asking me to make chapter 2 and so on, and I was lucky enough to find Matt Finish, who's here in the comments, and he voices every male character that we see from the movies in this series, and a very talented guy, Matt. Alright, I'm going to keep an eye on the comments, but I'm also going to be getting to work on this, so if I don't see anything, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to finish Wedge's flight jacket off. Alright, so let me get up. Yes, so this is a picture. That doesn't work. Alright, so this is a picture of Luke, but it's the same flight suit. So as you see here, there's this effect here on this jacket, and I've got an idea of how I'm going to do that, but I am kind of making it up as I go along. And then of course you've got the grey belt the belt here needs to change, and this strap is what I'm going to add, which I'm just going to paint on. In fact, I might do that first because that gives me more time to think about how to do this part. So I'm going to move this over here. Oh, thank you so much. It's very nice to know that so many people are enjoying what I do. I honestly have no idea. My version of this suit does not have those instruments in the pockets because I really wanted to put that on there, and it would overlap, and I require changing the model of the sleeve just a bit too much for my liking, because it's a lot more work. And yeah, and I kind of figured that this is 5 years after Return of the Jedi, 9 after that picture of Luke, so the uniform's going to change just a little bit. Which is another reason why the hair options are a little bit limited, because I can only use what they provide or sell, and you can't always get the hairstyles to match how they looked, because they were obviously wearing 80s hairstyles, and we're not in the 80s anymore. But I kind of felt like Wedge is a bit older than he was in Return of the Jedi, and this hairstyle would suit him. I'm going to finish Heir to the Empire before I start planning any more books. There is a live-action Shadows of the Empire fan film that is in production. You can find that on YouTube as well. I don't think we're going to be discussing the sequels here. I suppose Mandalorian is set at the same time 5 years after. I know there are different timelines, but it's the same 5 years later. But we're going to go with my version, because this is animated rather than live action, so I feel I can take a little bit of some liberties here. Yeah, the sequels are very divisive, and there are things I liked about them, there are things I didn't like about them. But here we're just going to talk about Heir to the Empire. We can discuss whether or not we like the sequels and other places on the internet. Dark Force Rising would probably be... Okay, so Heir to the Empire first, and I would guess that Dark Force Rising and The Last Command would be the next logical steps. And then I'll think about other books after that. But this is still going to take me quite some time. And Well, Heir to the Empire, that's a very good username you've got there. It's very appropriate. And I'm still not getting started on this because I'm too busy talking to you guys. Right. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is change the belt texture, I think. I'm not used to doing this with an audience, so please bear with me. Yes, as the Empire, you seem to be quite famous. Right, so I'm going into pants. And this is all the different types of textures. So this is the base colour, and the bump map, which is what creates all the... Oops. Like I said, I am not used to having an audience. This is going to be quite embarrassing. Now, it's a bump map, which is what creates the like the wrinkles, so they actually look like wrinkles rather than just a flat surface. And if you look in really closely, you can see the little effects of the fabric. Now, normally in a scene, you're not going to zoom in that closely, but it adds more detail that when you see them walking around. And so these are the PBR settings, which it helps with the reflections and things like that. So if you've got a metallic surface, you want it to be shiny, so you want the colours to be brighter, whereas dull colours, the darker the colour, the less shiny it is. Isn't really a good example. I guess the helmet here, if you compare the helmet to the fabric, it's slightly shinier, or the visor here, that's got a reflective surface. I have watched the Dark Empire adaptation. I keep meaning to check to see if he's released chapter 2 yet. Well, good night. Thank you for coming. It's past midnight here. I'm in the UK, so it's 20 past midnight. I can't change the size of the belt. I don't... Well, I can if I go in and... I can edit the mesh, which this is all the polygons that make up the 3D model. So I could drag these around. It is a huge amount of work because it's very easy. So as you see, you've got the belt here, but then there's the mesh is for the trousers underneath. So if I were to drag this, I would probably be affecting what's underneath, and it gets very messy. So I try not to do that unless it's an emergency. But again, when we're watching him walking around, you're not really going to be focusing here. When he's talking, you're going to be seeing up here. Yes, it does. Lockdown really messes up with the sleeping pattern, and I've got lots of friends online in America, and so I end up staying up far too late, either animating or talking to them, or both at the same time. Alright, so let's change that. So what I'm going to do is take the base color texture into Paint Shop Pro. I prefer this to Photoshop, and what I'm going to do is change the color manually. It's all kind of a greyish silver color, so what I should be able to do is just do this. It's a cheating way, but it's the easiest way. My computer is struggling here a little bit with all of this graphics software open. So I did get a new graphics card the other day. I was lucky enough to get my hands on. Let's change that a little bit more. Yeah, I was lucky enough to get my hands on one of the new NVIDIA 3070s, and I put it in my computer, but the other parts of my computer are very old and it struggled with it, so I had to take it out. And I've ordered some other components to help fix that problem, but I'm back to the old graphics card for the next few days. And of course that is slowing everything down a lot. So we're just gonna... I should probably just use the fill command, but never mind. We're doing it this way now. Anyway, it gives me a bit more time to talk to you as we're waiting for that to catch up. Yeah, definitely gonna need it. Right, so let's change the transparency. Let's try that one. So I'll just save it. Yep. Yes. And go back to... It's slightly lighter, but not light enough. So let's try again. Did it save? Right, it saved, but it didn't really make a whole lot of difference. Let's try again. Now you're kind of losing the details, so let me try adjusting the brightness and contrast. So I'm kind of concentrating on this and not paying attention to the chat, so bear with me a second while I get the right settings. Yeah, I think that might work. Yes. I don't actually normally talk to myself when I'm working, just in case you're wondering. That looks pretty close. Let me bring Luke back. Yeah, I think we'll go for that. I do actually do motion capture for this project. I didn't for the first chapter because I just wanted to do a test for space battle footage, so I was using all these stock animations I already had in my collection, but once I moved on to chapter 2, I've done pretty much every character motion capture except for a couple of... Some of the stunt work I don't want to do because I don't want to injure myself or damage the motion capture equipment. I use the perception neuron suit, which is basically sensors on straps which I put on my body, and then I can run around my living room pretend to be in Star Wars. And it counts as work, which is nice. So yeah, pretty much everything is motion captured. I do really enjoy doing the motion capture for Han. I've cosplayed as Indiana Jones a couple of times, so well, the reason you haven't seen any behind the scenes before is because this is the first one. And I don't really know if I'd want to stream myself doing motion capture, because it's hard enough to focus on what I'm doing without having to try and chat, and I'd probably feel kind of awkward with an audience, even if over the internet. Maybe one day, but I'm not brave enough for it just yet. Anyway, I've got the belt right, so let me just have a look at my reference picture. So now it's got a strap that goes from here down to here, and then around the legs. And I think I'm going to paint that on, just to make it a lot easier on myself. This could be a little tricky because I've got to make sure all the texture pieces line up, but we'll give it a go. Yeah, I'm just going to save him actually first. Right, and I'll create a new layer. I've got to try and figure out where all the joins are on this texture, which I've made really bright orange and can't see the pieces. Maybe I should have done the strap before I changed to orange. Never mind. If I bring in that, does this make it easier? Yes, it does. Okay. So I need the grey strap to go around here, and then down, and then around. So maybe I'll do the bits around the legs first, and then worry about the other bit afterwards. Well, I'll do one side, and then I can mirror it for the other. That should work. Freehand selection. It needs to be about here. And luckily we're doing it in layers. I can move it around afterwards if it's not quite lined up right. I hope you guys are all having a good day, even though it is Monday, and you know, the dreaded Monday. I'm trying to get a curved effect here. It's so much easier when you use the fill tool instead of trying to paint it in. Right, so let's see if that looks right. Yeah, December is going to be a nightmare after watching what was announced. Well, it's a bit too far down his leg, but I think that works. I think it needs to be a different angle. But when you're here, it should be fine. In fact, I may not... I may do some trickery, which will I'll do. I'll experiment with that later on. But for now, I'm going to get the angle of this right. So let's get rid of that and try again. It needs to be a sharper angle, I think, for it to work. You obviously live in a different part of the UK from me, as the weather has been pretty... Well, it's not particularly warm, but it's not raining, which is nice. I went for a walk earlier. Well, thank you for coming and watching this. And, oh, we are in the same part of the UK. I live near Bath. Nope, I got that wrong. Nope, still got that wrong. It's very tricky doing this by hand. Ah, Yeovil. I used to live near there when I was much younger. Got some friends there. I haven't been to see for a while. Oh, welcome and hello, Ohio. You know, it's still not quite right, but I think this will do. I can always fix it, tidy it up a bit later on. I'm sure that watching me draw lines on this, so I can then fill it with a grey. Fill it with grey is not the most thrilling thing. I don't know why they've got orange lines going through this. It might be something to do with my previous attempt. There we go. Alright, let's see if this works better. Yeah, I think that's a better angle than the first attempt. No, I mean, I haven't been to Yeovil for about 8 years. I went to visit a friend just before Christmas, and usually we meet up elsewhere. Right, so I'm going to duplicate this layer. There we go. There we go. It's the same on both sides. And it brought some childhood memories back, but apart from my friend, it's not really somewhere I would normally go. Sorry to insult what the place you live. Of course, the problem I've got now is if I were to paint the grey strap on here, it's going to go to about there, and then it's got this bit here of nothing. So what I'm thinking is I may put in So what I did for the straps up here was to create a little cylinder object, and then you can't see it. Oh, I'm glad you are okay with the insulting of Yovel then. But anyway, yeah, this strap here is basically a circle, and it's solid all the way through. But I could probably do one with a cylinder and then place that here and attach it separately, because otherwise this isn't attached to anything, it's just there. So I may do that, but I can't do that in Character Creator. I have to, once I finish making him, I can take him back into iClone and add that in. It might be a whole lot easier. So I will save him as a separate version in case I want to go back to, because I may do these as cylinders as well, and it'll, yeah, that might actually be easier. So I'm just thinking about how this is going to look. Hello there. As you can see, I'm making wedge. Yeah, I think I'll come back to the straps, that last strap afterwards, and do it him separately. So I'm going to move on to the jacket. Should be an interesting challenge. Right, safety vest. Yes, I was talking earlier about you can change the shape of the clothes. So this is a safety vest, and I've raised it up a bit because the flight jackets don't come all the way down like an actual jacket that you and I would probably be used to wearing. So I've raised the bottom up. It's about the right height, I think. I'm sure it wouldn't get Rebel Legion approved, but I'm not too worried about that. But you've got this design on the front, and I'm going to try and draw that on as a texture, which is probably not going to be the most thrilling thing to watch. But unfortunately, the most exciting parts I'd already done before I thought about streaming, creating a character. So this is what we're stuck with. Oh, thank you. I intend to keep going. This is Wedge for chapter 10. It will appear a few other times later on in the book as well. Just thinking about the best way to do this one as well. This is definitely going to be a texture one though. So let's get the right settings for the texture. Not sure why it wasn't on PBR. PBR is physics-based rendering, so you can change the settings so that the material reacts to light the way it should be. It's not quite ray tracing, but it kind of produces a similar result. So basically, if you had a metal object, it would be shiny like metal is, and you just play around with it with these settings. So I should get this up. I noticed on one of the reference pictures I was looking at earlier, this design I'm going to put on the front. He does have it on the back as well. The other thing I'm going to do is get rid of the zip, because he doesn't actually have one. And it kind of, gold zip here stands out, so I'm just going to cover that up. Of course, now that I've shown you how I'm going to do that, you'll be looking for it in the, well, hopefully not too closely in the chapter when it's finished. But if I get rid of this, save that. That looks better. I mean, It's still there because it's part of the model of the jacket. And I can't really do much about that, but it's a lot less noticeable. Yeah, please do keep sharing the videos. There's a playlist where you can see the opening crawl and all 9 chapters. That's a good thing to share because then people can just watch it all and they can binge watch it. Otherwise, share whichever chapter you feel is best to introduce people to. And I'm really proud of the way chapter 9 came out. I know the visual quality has changed a lot. I've been learning a lot, and the software itself has improved a lot since I did chapter 1. But of course, you kind of need to start from the beginning. It's not like chapter 1 is terrible, it's just it doesn't look as good as 9. And I had so much fun doing that battle scene in 9. Right, so I will try and make this as interesting to watch as possible, although I can't necessarily promise anything. Oh well, now you've got something to look forward to after you finish watching this here. It's quite a long chapter as well, just under 10 minutes. I will give away no spoilers. Well, thank you. I can't take... I mean, I try and make every chapter look as good as possible. But the software has improved a lot since I got started. Just trying to think. Yeah, it's gone through quite a few upgrades, especially with the characters. Just about finished chapter 3 when the character they updated the quality of the characters by having this whole new update to the character creator software, which is what I'm using now, to make the faces look more detailed. And so of course I then had to go back and then render chapter 3 again, but I was still kind of learning how it all worked. So it wasn't until chapter 4 that you didn't get to see some real upgrades to Thrawn and Pelion. Alright, just thinking. Nope. It requires quite a steady hand, and I don't necessarily have one. I'm sure there's a better way to do this. You know what? There is a better way to do this. I'm simply keeping an eye on the comments. I'm not necessarily thinking about the I'm not necessarily concentrating on what I'm doing. This should be the way. This is the way. Almost. What am I missing? Ah yes, go with the texture. Well, it'd be a shame not to do all 3. But I'm really mostly just focusing on Heir to the Empire to start with. Contrarian, I do not have a Patreon, but I do have something similar called Ko-fi. It's ko-fi. You can find the link to it on the channel. It's a similar kind of thing. I kind of prefer it to Patreon. That's just me, but it basically works in a very similar way. So yeah, I'm focusing on Heir to the Empire first because it's a huge amount of work. and I'm enjoying it. Don't get me wrong. It's just hard to think about what to do after that when I'm still, trying to get this one done. Nope. Thank you. That is very kind of you to support me this way. The other thing that really helps is if you just share the videos. I did have the ads enabled, so that helps. Yeah, there we go. Somebody X has just helped with that. I'll put them in the description. Oh, you're most welcome. I was finishing Wedge off and I thought, I wonder if people will be interested to see what goes into it. That was another thing I was going to mention earlier, but I didn't get around to it. Is for Han, Luke and Leia, there's a plugin that you can generate a character model from a photo. So I did that for Han, Luke and Leia. I was going to try it with Wedge, but the problem is he's wearing a helmet in just about every single shot that he's in, which would mean that either the software doesn't recognize it as a face because most of his face is covered, or you'd get parts of his visor as a texture on his face, and it wouldn't be it would look really wrong. So I created Wedge from scratch without using the photo thing, and I'm actually really pleased with how he turned out. Now, I know that's not quite lined up properly, but I can trim the edges once I'm done so it looks much neater. I could, but I have to find the photos have to be certain lighting for it to work, because if you get a photo where there's light coming from one side of the face but not the other, then you've got shadow on one side of the face, which will then show up on the character model because it's not smart enough to know it's a shadow and not the way the character actually looks. So it's very difficult to find photos. It also has to be really high quality as well. Again, I could, but then you still have the lighting in the set. I did think about trying to get the character model out of Squadrons, but on the other hand, this is an interesting challenge. Probably, I didn't think about that. Maybe next time. I was interested in seeing how well I could actually create a character that people has a recognisable look from scratch. I mean, I know people know what Thrawn looks like, but there's no live action performance of him unless he shows up in The Mandalorian at some point. So as long as he's blue and red eyes, and he's kind of there's a certain way you imagine him to look, but I'm not trying to match him to a specific actor, if you get what I'm saying. Whereas Wedge, people know who Dennis Lawson is. The other thing is I could use a picture of him now, but then of course he's a lot older now than he was in Return of the Jedi, or how he would be in this, and I don't really know if I'd want to try and de-age him, because it's not something I've tried yet either. I'm sure live action of Thrawn will happen. I've got some theories about The Mandalorian, but I don't necessarily know if I want to go into it here for spoilers. But I think if live action Thrawn is going to happen anytime soon, it will be in The Mandalorian. Or even not soon, but at some point. Maybe season 3 or 4. Well, thank you. It's important to me to try and get them to look as good as possible. Well, the problem with pictures of younger Dennis Lawson is the cameras that they use to take them they weren't as good as the cameras that you can get take pictures of people now. So they'll be grainy, and that grain will also appear on the character model. Right, before I do too many more of these, I'm going to save it and make sure it's working. Well, not quite the way I wanted it to go, but it's, I think I see what I'm doing wrong. Well, the thing about The Mandalorian is it is being made by people who like the expanded universe, so they keep bringing stuff in. Right, let's try something a little different. Is that the official fan film contest? Yeah, I was a finalist in the 2007 one for The Death of Jar Jar. Oops. I didn't win, but Chronicles of Young Skywalker. You know, I think I've heard of that one. I haven't. So I went through a phase of. I kind of got Star Wars out a bit. So I kind of stopped keeping track of fan films, but I do remember the title, The Chronicles of Young Skywalker. I will have to check it out again after I finish Wedge here. Yeah, as the Empire, I do appreciate we're not discussing spoilers for Mandalorian here. I want to make sure everyone gets to enjoy it. But yeah, I was very excited about that most recent episode as well, and the one before. Has everyone seen the episode before yet? Right, so if you haven't seen episode 3, yeah, if you haven't seen episode 3 yet and you wish to avoid spoilers, I suggest you stop watching now. It was really great to... Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say I'm glad you were doing that. It was really great to see the Gozanti transport in a and the Empire in kind of a live action capacity. Well, there is actually I think it was on someone shared it. I think it was a We Got This Covered or something like that, with an older Mace Windu who's going to appear in it, and I have my doubts. Oh dear. Yeah, well, with Rebels, they're using different animation software, and they're trying to produce a lot of episodes in a short space of time, so everything is going to be a lot less detailed than it would have to be for The Mandalorian. And if they try to use the model they used in Rebels for The Mandalorian, it would really look terrible. Yeah, and the short scenes where it's the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, they work, but they wouldn't work for a whole episode. Let's see, how many does it take before it goes wrong? No, so it's just the last two. So I'm just talking to myself, which I don't normally do, as I've already covered. I'm sure someone will take the other episode 9 scripts and try and do something with it. It will not be me because I'm too busy doing this. So I have a different theory about what's going to happen there, but I don't want to spoil the most recent episodes, so I'm not going to be discussing my theory here. That's 19 books. I don't think I'm going to be doing that in a hurry. So, as I keep saying, I do like getting this question a lot, but I'm going to focus on finishing Heir to the Empire first. And then I will see, because it's going to take me quite some time to finish Heir to the Empire, and then there's still the other 2 books in the trilogy. I've kind of been thinking ahead about if there's ways to speed up the other 2 books, but there's such a long way off. I don't really want to be planning too much of that, so I'm just going to focus on Heir to the Empire for now. The entire New Jedi Order would be an impressive project to do, though. Right, so I'm putting this design on his shirt. It's not finished yet. As you can see, they're supposed to be evenly spaced, and they're not, because the way the textures forms around the object. Think for a moment. Okay, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm looking at the reference picture. Well, I'm glad you're really enjoying Heir to the Empire. Well, technically this is work going into chapter 10, because Wedge is in chapter 10, and so this is the character model I'm working on for him. Actually, Heir to the Empire is the longest of the 3 books. Someone else is covering Dark Empire, so I will not tread on their toes. Normally I would post links to it, but if it was responded to comments, I try to post links to other people's work when I get requests for those. But for now, you just have to search on YouTube yourself. Well, thank you, John. I do really appreciate that. Anyway, let me get back to trying to get some of this work done. So, one of the mistakes I made was to have these touching each other, because they don't. It's going to be more like this. Now I am still getting to know this piece of software, so I may do some things in it that you might think, why is he doing that? Paint Shop Pro, that is. I know Character Creator quite well, and not saving that's the right layer would be one of them. The Dark Empire came out at a time when there wasn't a lot of coordination between the two publishing houses, because Dark Horse Comics had got the rights for Star Wars, and I think it's Bantam Books had got the rights for Star Wars novels, and I think a few emails were sent back and forth, but on the whole, there wasn't a whole lot of coordination. I have to admit, when last year I was listening to the Hand of Thrawn books, and I was thinking, these would make a really good film project. But yeah, let me finish Heir to the Empire first. Right, let me get rid of the box. I see. Well, yeah, it's just that it takes me time to animate each scene, and it takes time for the voice actors to record the dialogue, and for me to render it and do all the editing and create the character models. Although I guess there'll be a point where I've got all the character models I need and all the other 3D models, but still the animation, rendering, recording, editing, it right. Let's keep going up. I think the batteries in my keyboard are dying because it stops being responsive, and then it starts working again. So I may have to go and change those. Well, that didn't come out quite right. I may end up doing the thing where I take some liberties with the design, just to make things a little bit easier for myself. Because, so that's the texture, and that's how it looks. And I'm not sure if I really want to spend the time trying to figure out how to straighten that out, because actually I was saying that and an idea just came to me. Edit the mesh of that, edit the mesh of safety vest. Ah, we have Grand Admiral Thrawn himself. Welcome, Grand Admiral. Will this work? It will. It's not going to be... no, actually. Because... will that work? No. Yeah, okay, this isn't going to... It works there, and it's going to work here. If you see the little dots, these are the joins between the points of the polygons, and I can edit them, I can move them around to change the shape. But there's this, and it makes the texture become a straight line like you see here. But for some reason, we've got this point here, and I don't think this is gonna fix it. Oh, there we go. So I can fix it after all. That's good news. Of course, this is still quite a large section. Yeah, I think I'm going to go back and remove these two pieces. I know it's not technically screen accurate, but it will be a lot easier on myself than trying to figure out how to make it more screen accurate. At least for now. I mean, I could come back to this later and with an idea, but for now I'm going to get rid of that and get rid of that. So let's save that. There we go. Well, when Thrawn himself appears, you kind of have to introduce him. It's annoying me now, that's not looking right. Yeah. Maybe I could put a New Republic emblem here or something to make it look... to fill the white gap there. Yeah, it is. Earlier on I was talking about how I would normally, for movie characters, that are well, the human ones anyway, I would generate a character model from a photo, but there are no good pictures of Wedge, because he's usually got his helmet on, or the lighting is really bad, and the photos are grainy because the cameras they had at the time. So you get all of that on the texture. So he wouldn't. So if I were to create a character model of Wedge with his helmet on, you wouldn't get the helmet generated around his head. What you would do is you'd get his head would be this shape, and it would have the helmet painted on, which would not look right. And then, because of the helmet covering a lot of his face, it may not even recognise that it's a human face to generate a model from. Because if I tried to create a model of a photo of, I don't know, like a car or something, it wouldn't create a car for you. It would just say there's no human face to work with. So I created him by scratch. I do like Arturo's music. Problem is he performed it in concert hall, which and then was recorded. I don't know how they recorded it, but it sounds like a recording on a phone, or not necessarily the best recording equipment. So I really liked the music he composed, but there's some issues like that. I could do that. Then the problem is they wouldn't bend with him as he moved. Because they would be solid, basically a solid tube across his chest. But if he were to turn one direction, part of it would go through his chest. So let's say he were to turn this way, and if you had a mesh pipe here, it would not necessarily it wouldn't change shape with his body. It would go through his body, and you get some clipping options. This software is called Character Creator, and it goes alongside the software I use to animate called iClone. It's both produced by the same company, and the idea is you can create your characters in this and then import them over to the iClone animation software. And it works a lot like a video game. Character Creator tool with slider bars to adjust the facial features, eye colour, and so on. But it's a lot more in depth. Like if I really wanted to, I could go in to his eyelashes and change how much they're curved, which I don't really feel like I need to do that with Wedge, but that's the kind of depth it goes to. And then of course you dress them with various clothes. Wedge has got the Rogue Squadron patch on his sleeve already. I thought it was important to have that on there. Oh, sorry, iClone. Basically like iPhone, but clone instead of phone. It's created by a company called Real Illusion. You can find them on Google quite easily. That's right, but it's one word. That's alright, John. I've been mostly focusing here, so you're not going to see it unless I move him around to the side. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do... Oh, you're most welcome, Grand Admiral. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do is... what's this? There we go. Now, this is going to look really weird. But there is a purpose. And it takes a moment to load. It should work. If it doesn't, I might need to come back and try again. Yeah, it didn't quite work the way I intended, but that is okay. So I'll do this. And I'm sure there's a better way to do it than this, but this is the way I know how to do it. So this is the way it will be done. My computer is struggling a little bit because I've got Character Creator open, PaintShop Pro, streaming, and several different browser windows because I've got all these reference photos up. And also these are quite high resolution textures. Maybe just try this again in a minute, but I'm going to focus on finishing Heir to the Empire first, but it would be a shame not to do any more of the trilogy. But it's a little bit too far ahead for me to be planning how I'm going to be doing the rest of the trilogy just yet. Other than that, I'd like to. Let's see if this should work. I hope it works anyway. We have to experiment a bit more. Oh, thank you. So what I've just done is modified the bump map, which creates, well, basically the bumps on the texture, so it makes it look a little bit more 3D, even though it isn't. It's just painted on. That's how you get the little fabric detail on the the orange jumpsuit. It's not perfect, so I will go back and try adjusting the settings. I mean, if you get in really close, you can see it's still not quite right, but I'm not going to get that close to his jacket. You're going to be looking at it from about here. Yes, so let me. Let's try something different. The problem is the preview window is tiny and there's no way to make it any bigger, so I'm going to lean really close to see what's happening. I don't know if any of you guys can see what's happening. Alright, good night, Heir to the Empire. Thank you for coming. Of course, I should have made a joke about a local boy, as in Phantom Menace, but of course it comes to me as you leave. But have a good night. Thank you for coming to watch. This one might be a little bit better. Or maybe not. Actually, I know what's going to work. What will work here? In theory. I do admit that I'm kind of making a lot of this up as I go along. I think I see where I was going wrong here. What I need to do this will require a little bit of a steady hand. Actually no it won't, because I will do it this way. Nope. Almost had it. Think about there. Yep. Basically, I'm trying to create the bump map to look a bit more rounded. So that should create the right effect. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoy my videos so much. Color space. It's a little bit more pronounced. I think that's going to work. Let's find out. Oops. Get rid of the feather. So I cheated and used screenshots from Battlefront because I thought they in the game they did a really good job of getting the characters to look like the original cast. So that's how I got Han, Luke and Leia. And Lando, although you haven't seen him yet because he doesn't appear until chapter 14. Unfortunately, Wedge isn't in that. But I could do the same thing with squadrons. But this is more interesting for me. And it only creates the face as well, so I still have to create the costumes by hand. There we go. Had the wrong setting. I think that works. Probably should bring him a little bit Maybe. No. Sorry, just talking to myself. Normally I'm thinking to myself like that, but because I've got you guys as an audience, do you how many people are watching this? Look, 18 viewers. Well, I'm glad you're all sticking around and watching. I hope this is interesting. Right, so I need a New Republic logo. Let's go to Google. Yeah, I did. I heard that story. I can't remember who it was that did play him in that briefing scene. I was quite surprised when I knew that. I just assumed the way he looked a bit different. I mean, I knew that the guy in the briefing looked a bit different, right? I just thought it's because he hasn't got his helmet on. I did have a New Republic logo somewhere. Got the Imperial logo. There we go. Alright, so to undo all of this because I forgot to save it as its own. There we go. I'm going to bring in the New Republic logo. Now I know when I paste this in, it's going to be massive. And where did it get? Why? Didn't know why it went over there. Right, this is going to be massive and distorted, but it will give me an idea of what I need to change. Actually, not as bad as I was expecting. It needs to be smaller and up here, I think. It's 50% smaller. Let's try it there. I think that's too high now. Maybe it was better. I mean, the size is right, but I think it needs to be there. Or maybe not, because now that's really wobbly. This is why I don't edit the mesh very often, because it's not the most thrilling thing to do. Hello there. So when someone called General Grievous arrives, there's only one way to greet him. I'm doing this by hand, so it can be a little time consuming to get right. That one. That is very true. But I'm glad you're enjoying watching this sort of behind the scenes look into creating characters. I was kind of worried that I'd end up being so busy talking to all of you that I wouldn't get any work done. Yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to do it, just to show people what goes into making a character model like this. Now I'm almost there, so it's kind of got this pointy bit. I think even if it's not entirely smooth, we can put some of that down to the fact that this is a soft piece of fabric. It's not hard armor. Almost. It's a little bit too pointed there from that side. And that one needs to come out a little more. And when it does actually render, I've got the smoothing option, so it shows up a lot smoother than it does here, and that seems to have pushed it out of shape. Alright. I think this needs to be here. But it only renders smooth. I've got that option turned off because it's very demanding on this rather old graphics card. Right, this. I think that works. I'll do it briefly for the test, but yeah. As you can see, it's much smoother with the tessellation on maximum, but I'll be taking that off very quickly. I know it's not perfectly lined up, as I said, it's a soft piece of fabric, it's going to bend and stretch, so it feels like that's natural rather than put on badly. At least that's what I'm hoping for. Now over here, this clipping, so I'm going to fix that. Well, thank you. I'm glad you guys liked it too. That's alright, thank you for coming, General. Hope you found it interesting. Enjoy taking care of the stuff you have to attend to. I assume it's crushing the Republic. Well, I think that's what I'm going to leave it there for today. I've been streaming for nearly an hour and a half. I hope you all found this very interesting. I need to take care of a couple of other parts of Wedge that I have to import into iClone, which basically makes the computer slow down to a crawl as it's processing it all, and I think that would interrupt the stream. So, well, hi, Darth Nightwing Phoenix. Oh, and I do. That's a huge compliment to be paid there. Thank you for comparing me to Bob Ross. I'm a fan of him. So, well, this is for chapter 10, and I'm making wedge for it, and yeah, this is just kind of the first behind-the-scenes look I've put into it. Because normally I like to make a chapter and then put it out and surprise people with what I've done. Yes, this is Wedge. Normally you see him with the helmet on his head, but there's going to be some scenes where he's not wearing a helmet. yeah, it's hard to believe that YouTube's been around for that long. I still remember some of the early limitations where you couldn't upload a video longer than 10 minutes and things like that. I'm really glad you enjoy Heir to the Empire. Yeah, he's almost done. There's a couple of extra details that I need to do, but because I need to import him into iClone, my computer slows to a crawl, which is going to be a problem for the stream. So I'm gonna go and do that and add the extra details in. I'll post a picture of him completed on the YouTube community page when he's finished. So look for that in a little while. But otherwise, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for enjoying the series so far. And I guess I'll have to do this again at some point. Because it's been fun talking and working. So I'll have to find something else I want to show that's not going to be too... I don't want to say spoilery, because I imagine most of you have read the book. But at the same time, it's nice to be able to put a video up and surprise everyone with what's in it. Like the battle in Chapter 9. Anyway, thank you all. See you next time and have a good night. Yes, Grand Admiral, I'm going to end the stream here so that I can import him into iClone. Because the process slows the computer down so much, I don't think the streaming software will handle it, so it'll be very unpleasant to watch, shall we say. So just to make it easier for me and give you a good viewing experience, I'm going to end it here. So yeah, have a good night or good day, depending on where you are in the world, and see you next time. Thank you, and